Hey there, everyone. This is Ray from the Phobos Amphitheater, and welcome to another installment of Within the MIDI. This is a series where we do deep dives into Doom community made music in the form of MIDI files, of course, to figure out what makes them sound so great and why they're so loved. So, today, I'm really excited to get into this one today. For our second installment in the series is an oldie. This one's been around for a long time. You may have heard it in Poisson d'Agony 2 and Pineapple Under the Sea 5, but you likely first heard it from Hell Revealed 2. This is Last Wish by Petter Mårtensen. So, Last Wish. This is probably one of Petter Mårtensen's most revered tracks in the Doom community. It's definitely one of his most recognizable just from the types of instruments that he uses in this MIDI. So it's got a very distinct sound, which of course we'll hear in a little bit, but it also retains that very metal, like hard rock sound to it that so much of Mårtensen's music is known for. Mårtensen, who also goes by the screen name Thurbs, to my knowledge, I believe he's still making music to this day, or at least he made music pretty recently, around maybe 9-10 months ago or to a year ago. He has a YouTube channel where he uploads music from time to time, some stuff more recent, but he also has a lot of his old Hell Revealed 2 tracks on his YouTube channel, which is really cool. In many of the descriptions, the video descriptions for his Hell Revealed 2 music on his channel, he writes that those tracks were written around 1997, 98, so it's pretty safe to assume this track was written around that same time as well. If not then, maybe the early 2000s, or maybe right up to Hell Revealed 2's release. So this track is pretty old. It's over 20 years old. So it's I guess it could be considered a classic at this point. The soundtrack for Hell Revealed 2 was actually split between Mårtensen and Sam Woodman, who also goes by the name Metabolist. And interestingly, and Mårtensen even notes this in his video descriptions, that the music credits in the Hell Revealed 2 text file attribute Mårtensen's music to someone named Grave. I'm not sure if this was an old screen name of Mårtensen's or who this Grave person is. I don't know. I haven't been able to find any sort of record on that person, on any person using that kind of screen name. So I don't know. So whoever Grave is, it's a bit of a mystery, but Mårtensen, notes this erroneous detail in some of his video descriptions. But anyhow, enough backstory. Let's listen to this thing. So we're in the key of D minor here. The tempo is, I think it's between 135 and 140 BPM. At least that's just from what I gathered just from listening to it. Since it's such an old file, these older MIDI files, it's more difficult to tell. It's difficult to tell this kind of information about them because you have to convert them from like MUS files, MUS files, into MIDIs. At least that's what I had to do when I, ripped it from the Hell Revealed 2 WAD file. So not every bit of detail is set in stone here, but D minor, I'm pretty sure it's in D minor, between 135, 140 BPM. And I believe the time signature, just from listening to it, the time signature, I'm, 99% sure it's in 4/4. So without further ado, let's go ahead and fire this thing on up here. Very quiet. All right, so I'm actually going to stop it there because things do pick up in a little bit here. But What I just wanted to say about this was that, yes, we start with, so you might be wondering, well, what even is this? Where's this? Where's all the metal and the guitars and stuff like that? Well, it gets there. It does get there. But for right now, we start off with the seashore sound, this sound of, like, waves crashing on a beach. And it's actually called seashore in the MIDI instrument bank here. So I like to think of this intro as sort of a buildup of tension and anxiousness and, like, where's this thing going? It's really cool. It's very very spooky, very just not what you would think from having listened to a lot of other of the tracks in Hell Revealed 2, at least on from Mårtensen. So I think with this, it's quite different in that respect, and yeah, it's really just, it's very, like, foreboding. So then we switch to a new instrument, the brightness vocal sound here in just a little bit after a few more of the wave sounds, and that occurs at about 28 seconds in. So this intro is pretty long here, but let's go ahead and see where this thing goes here. All right, so this brightness sound here, this low-pitched vocal sound, this sort of goes, this keeps going in tandem with the waves, and what we've got here is an altering between D minor and B flat major. So it's musically, it's pretty simple. The riff repeats itself. It's the same two chords each time. With each repeat, and there's also a bass undercurrent with the atmosphere sound that kind of, like, drones along and keeps this thing moving. It's a little more difficult to hear with everything there, but there's only a few things at play here so far. It's just these three sounds: the brightness, seashore, and the atmosphere sound, and then right at about, let's see, a little right before the 1 minute mark, we have a solo that comes in. So let's hear that. Yeah, it all goes quiet again after the higher pitched solo, and again we have, like, those alternating pitches between seashore sounds. So there's a bit of a break here for a few more seconds, and the pattern of seashore sounds just kind of repeats like what we heard in the intro, and then after that we have, well, this is where the metal happens. So let's listen. Man, that's so cool. All right, so yeah, we've got just now the guns have gone blazing here, so now the evil is unleashed, the danger is afoot, and that is, this is what the whole thing has been, culminating to at this point. So all this stuff is now going on, and what's incredible about this is that there's only 4 instrument tracks being used in this whole thing. Just a few instruments playing at the same time. We've got obviously now the distortion guitar, which is playing sort of that main riff, that and that's going cycling between D minor, B flat major, A minor, and C major chords, and it's looping those 4 chords, you know, each time it repeats. So now we're looking at like a 4 chord progression instead of a 2 chord progression. And with this part, there's also something really cool here that I want to show you in this guitar part. So let's take a look at the sheet music and see what this is here. All right, so now we've isolated just the guitar part on its own here, and what I wanted to highlight, well, 2 things actually. One are these droning notes here, you know, on lower down on the staff, these lower bass notes here. These notes play, again, kind of like when we were listening to the brightness vocal solo earlier. These notes act in the same way as the atmosphere sound, where it plays like these, you know, this undercurrent of bass notes that help kind of move the whole thing along. So yeah, so that's one thing, and then let's just listen to the, you know, few measures and see if you can detect any oddities here. All right, so there were a couple of little examples of things in there that sounded a little bit weird. So if we look at, let's take a look here, where the C major chord hits. I think it's somewhere around here. Yeah, listen to just this part here. We have an accidental, and you can see it on the staff here. It's, you know, it's if you know reading music and stuff, it's no mystery. But anyhow, we've got an accidental C sharp note right here. I thought this was interesting when I first heard this because it sounds like, because the note C sharp is not in the key of D minor, like D natural minor. The notes in D minor are D, E, F, G, A, B flat, and C. There is no C sharp in there. So, and that's basically what an accidental is. It's just, I might have even talked about this in another video. An accidental note is just when there's a note that shows up that's not in, you know, whatever key we're in here. So it sounds like including the C sharp here makes it sound like we're climbing back up to like the D minor chord when we repeat here. So yeah, like, because if we were to change this to something like if we were to change this down to a C natural, and it looks like there's a couple of instances there. If we change those down, see how it doesn't have quite the same. It doesn't have quite the same buildup. It almost sounds like it just kind of like lulls in that C major chord and then suddenly jumps back up to D minor. Whereas so like here it is with like the notes pitched down to C natural. And then if we go back and put those C sharps back in, it sounds so much more. It sounds fuller, you know. It feels like less of a. It feels like we're, again, more like a climb back up to our original chord, that instead of just kind of sitting there wallowing in that C major chord and then just suddenly jumping back into D minor. So that was just something I wanted to note there. Really, really nice use of accidentals. And with that, I want to kind of step away from the guitar part for just a little bit. We've also got the electric bass part, the electric bass, you know, being played with a pick part. And what's cool about that is that if we look here in the instrument list, like the track list up here, if we kind of scroll back a little bit, see how the names of the instruments change? This is how Mårtensen kind of gets away with using just 4 tracks, like 4 instrument tracks in the whole piece, but still gets so much mileage out of his instruments. So, because you can see here, if we go all the way back to the beginning, see, we just have seashore and drums, and then brightness, atmosphere appear, and then once the guitar enters, let's see here. Yeah, this is where because the instruments themselves change like within the track. So it's not like there's one track for the brightness sound, one for the guitar, one for atmosphere, one for the bass. It's the guitar and bass take the place of those previous instruments. If that makes any sense, I know it's probably just kind of rambled there, but let's have a listen to the bass part. So this basically follows the exact same pattern as the guitar part here. The bass obviously just playing, some octaves below. And it sounds like some of these notes sound really low. Like, these are pitched so low. It's very difficult to hear them with all the instruments sounding, playing together. So if we listen to both parts at the same time. Yeah, so it's difficult to hear those really low bass notes. It makes me wonder if Mårtensen ever recorded this track live or, did like a studio recording of it. And when he was writing it, if he wrote the bass part on a 5-string bass, because again, these notes, you can't, like some of these really low notes, like these, B flats and A naturals here, it sounds like, way below the range of a 4-string bass. So I don't know, maybe he wasn't using any instruments at the time. Maybe he was, there's really no way to tell just from looking at the music here. But, it's just one of those things that gets me thinking, like, how did he write that? But anyway, so after this pattern we've been looking at kind of repeats itself for a few more measures, we go into a bridge section here. So let's have a listen to that. All right, so this is this is the bridge section right here. Again, it repeats itself, kind of like everything that we've been looking at up to this point. And with this, again, it's more of the same, at least with the bass part. The bass part, I believe, still plays. Well, actually, no, it doesn't follow the same pattern as it was, but it does follow. Yeah. Again, like very low notes being used here, being played like really, really fast. And then the guitar part is kind of this, it's a different rhythm than what we were hearing before. It's a little more relaxed, I think. It's not as frantic sounding as sort of the whole, verse chorus section earlier on there. I do want to point out the drums. If we highlight those, if we kind of solo those real quick, I mean, just listen to this. Like, that's just metal through and through. I mean, come on. It doesn't get any more hard rocking than that. Like, oh yeah. The fills are so good. And then, yeah, I just want to kind of let it go back into, yeah. And then that's after that last fill there, that's the that takes us back into the main chorus part that we were listening to earlier. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a drummer, so I don't know how you would play that in real life. Are there any drummers here that can kind of explain to me how that works? I mean, is that even possible? I don't know. A lot of the time you can make sounds in MIDI music that aren't physically possible to replicate in real life. So I don't know. Maybe it is possible, but either way, I mean, God, they just sound so good. Now, with that, let's get all the instruments together and segue back into the main chorus here. Yep, and then just more of the same here that we were listening to before. I'm gonna move along just a little bit, and highlight all this craziness going on in here, because this will take us into the sort of the final section of the piece to round us off to the end. And that's it. After that final guitar solo there, if you're playing in game, the track just loops back to the quiet seashore sounds, back at the beginning. So that's the whole track. It's pretty, it's a bit on the shorter side. It's just over 3 minutes. But it feels like it goes by so quickly, though. I mean, the whole piece is just so. It's amazing. I mean, I don't really know how else to put it. I love this piece. It's so original and so unique and just such a distinct sound. Like, listen to this sound, like this shredding on the guitar here. This, like, all these notes clumped together here, like, this is just. Yeah, I'm assuming, like, if you were doing that in real life on an actual guitar, you would just be like strumming the hell out of the strings and going into, like the next part or whatever. Like, God, that's so cool. So metal, man. Oh, love it. But anyhow, one more thing before we kind of wrap up here is, back during the bridge section, the chord progression actually changes to a D minor, B flat, a C, and then A. So that's really the only deviation in chords. But apart from that, structurally, it's a pretty simple piece. You have other than the intro and the vocal part, you have 4 chords that just kind of repeat over and over. But everything happening within that structure, that's where all of the detail and the rock and the metal just comes out, and that's really what makes this piece so cool, and the combination of all the different instruments at play here. So that is Last Wish by Petter Mårtensen, and man, any map that uses this track is instantly made better for that. I mean, this piece is just, bravo. That's all I gotta say. So, with that, thank you for watching this second installment of Within the MIDI. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment. What did you think about this piece? What pieces do you want us to dive into next? I'd love to hear from you. And, if there's any kind of musical elements that maybe I missed here, point them out. Highlight some of your favorite parts in a comment below. So with that, I hope to hear from you soon. And until next time, this has been Ray from the Phobos Amphitheater, and I'll see you later.